To varying degrees at varying times in my time here, close to 30 years, I have really been able to do, to a pretty large extent, what I wanted to do. To some extent as a teacher, more and more as the time went along, I got to teach the courses I wanted to teach, the material I wanted to teach, but even before that I could teach the material I wanted to teach within courses that the department needed me to cover and in some cases had hired me to cover. And also I was always able to do the kind of scholarly and creative work that I wanted to, even if it didn't fit, which it didn't, neatly into the categories I was originally hired to cover. So that kind of openness, and I think that's been the department chairs, but also the people on tenure and promotion committees, and just the faculty in general. A lot of people here have changed what they do over the years, which keeps everybody, I think, more intellectually alive, that you're really free to follow a new interest and passion and incorporate it into the work you're doing for the job, rather than having to stop and get back to 18th century rhetoric or whatever you did 20 or 30 years ago.
It's interesting, that seems to be very consistent in the experience.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Very much so, yeah.
How did you first come to be part of the CSU English department?
Well, I already had a job at Bowling Green State University, which was my third or fourth, depending on how you count it, academic job. And I had tenure there, but I had always wanted to come back to Colorado. I grew up here and wanted to live back in the Rockies someplace, which is much easier said than done. And a job came open. I was by then really aware of the department because my now husband, John Calderazzo, had gotten a job here. So I spent a lot of time out here. I met everybody. I was on sabbatical. The second year John was here, and so I came out to spend my sabbatical here. And I taught one class here at CSU, a literary theory graduate class, which was a field they didn't have good coverage for at the time, and was my specialty. And then a job came open. I really don't think it had anything to do with shaping a job for me, but it happened to be an exact fit to what my credentials were. So I applied and I got it. Then I had to go back to Ohio one more year to pay off my sabbatical. And then I moved here for good after that. I took a pay cut and I left a PhD program. But I didn't hesitate for a second. It was clearly the right move for me to make.
Earlier you talked about sort of the openness of the department to your research interests changing. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the path that you're in during your career?
Yeah, so when I was hired, the topics that they were looking to hire were modernism, 20th century modernism, I think maybe particularly British, I don't remember for sure, and literary theory. And those were my two fields. I'd written my dissertation in my first book about a British modernist novelist, painter, and critic, and I was already teaching theory, and that's really what I'd specialized in for graduate school. So I continued to teach the British literature, modernism British literature, for a long time, and I also taught theory from the get-go almost my whole time here, both the undergraduate class, the 341, and a series of graduate classes, including the required one, the 615. Which I'm pretty sure actually didn't exist until maybe my first year, though I don't think I created it. I think somebody else created it and I stepped into it. But I was already not writing about that stuff by the time I came. I had already switched my interest